that's real good.
How's it going? Welcome,
Roxanne.
everybody.
It's a nice intro. That's fancy. That's much fancier than what at least I deserve. I can't speak for the other three.
No, you deserve it.
Thank you.
Anything for you, Nate.
Oh, jeez.
How's everybody tonight? We excited for the game?
Yes, ready to go.
Yeah, sure. I guess. I know Nate is.
I am very excited for the game. I'm nervous, excited, scared maybe a little, but more excited than scared.
Right. All right. Well, welcome to You Down with IDP Week 2. We are joined by Hollywood Titan this week. How's it going?
Doing just fine.
I'm your host, Queen Roxanne. With me is No Punt Intended co-host Joe Zollo. Hello.
Hi, Roxanne.
You are. His love for IDP is what brought the show to life and to bring it home. Club Fantasy is partnering with one of the most respected names in the realm of IDP fantasy in Frames. So thank you for that. Quick shout out to all the viewers last week. We had our debut show was the most viewed show on Club Fantasy FFL YouTube channel. So thank you, viewers, for that.
It's almost like I've been yelling at Josh for years to do an IDP show.
About time.
About damn time, as Lizzo would say.
I mean, that's pretty impressive personally, because I think Club Fantasy puts on, amazing content with a very devoted following. So, to get kicked off like that, I say we double up the next highest this week. Let's do that.
All I had to do was lose Josh and Ryan, and ratings immediately just skyrocketed. It's all I needed to do. No,
well, this will be the test with no Jorge. What happens as a result? Because he's either going to take all the credit for saying it was him, or we're going to be able to dog him next week. Roxanne,
he's not going to take the credit this week because he's not here. So
I'm here praying that the YouTube algorithm gave us every Titans fan in the world, and they just see the bottom left-hand corner of the screen like, oh, yeah, this is a Titans podcast. Yeah. That's my hope.
That's a good one. All right. So we're going to start off with injuries, right? You guys ready to talk about that?
Yeah.
First off, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
My brother's always in here, and this is, if you ever see his name pop up, obviously the same last name. The running joke on No Pun Intended is he has always said it's Jeff Wilson season, and for the first time in like 2 years, it is officially Jeff Wilson season. Now he's asking if he can play defense. No, sadly not. You cannot list him as your DB, only as your RB. Roxanne, take it away.
All right. First, the biggest news, I think, I'm sure you guys do too. TJ Watt, torn pec.
Huge.
4 to 6 weeks. Obviously, I would think. So I do cornerbacks more than the other position. So I would think TJ Watt was a top pick in IDP leagues this year, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So what are we going to do without him for the next 4 to 6 weeks?
You're going to go find Alex Highsmith and love yourself for it, because he had 3 sacks last week. I mean, that's not going to happen every week. Obviously, he's playing opposite TJ Watt, which is a circumstance of that. But this week he plays the Patriots, so 3 sacks isn't out of the realm of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, get his backup. His backups, or his opposite side, is pretty good as well. So,
right.
Yeah, there's there's no replacing TJ Watt. There's nothing you can pick up that's going to replace TJ Watt. The key is to at least, maybe stay water while you lose him, and hope that following some of the picks that we give each week might be a streaming option that might keep you up. So far, I think we're up for the challenge.
4 to 6 weeks seem like too short a time. Could it just get re-injured right when he comes back if they push him back too soon? Are we worried about that at all?
I am, because
It's
I mean, if
possible.
you're if you're electing for no surgery, it's
Right.
I don't know. I think they could rush him back too soon, and I guess time will see if they're 0 or maybe not 0. If they're 1-5, 1-6 at the time, maybe they let him
Wait
rest
it
a little
out.
more. It's hard to say exactly. They'll probably end up winning every game from this point on and force him back early.
Anybody else have anything about that?
I have TJ Watt, so I'm sad about it. And in the IDP guys invitational or something like that, I have him, and I picked up Trayvon Walker against my will to cover for him. It was either him or Kwity Paye, and I looked at the percentage, their snap percentages, fairly even.
Mhm.
But Trayvon Walker's like second best snap percentage, like person behind him, was far further behind him than it was Kwity Paye. Yannick Ngakoue was higher. Kwity Paye was second. Walker was like 87%. Next closest guy was in the low 70s. So I'm like, okay, they're not taking him off the field, which is all I want in the situation. And him and Kwity Paye had very fairly even like scoring numbers in that league. So I just went with the rookie against my will. I don't like Trayvon Walker personally. Just didn't think he should have been the number 1 overall pick. But here we are.
Yeah. I have TJ Watt in the NBC Sports' IDP invitation. And so I have but Kwity Paye is in my. Luckily, I had Nick Bosa, and I have Kwity Paye as well. So I mean,
Nice.
I'll be okay. My offense just is garbage. But moving on, Roxanne. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Good. Denzel Perryman. How long? I don't have a date or time on this.
Ankle injury. I mean,
is he out?
Yeah. If he's sprained, he'd rather just broken it be 4 to 6 weeks. If it's sprained, we'll see him when we see him.
Yeah.
I don't think this should affect too many people. Like, there's a lot of good linebackers out there that you can just grab. Yeah.
All right. J-Ron Curse, MCL ruled out.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. So I mean, just to put it bluntly, bye.
Right.
Okay.
4 to 6 weeks.
Quay Walker, Chris Barnes, back at practice. What is that?
That's big for the Packers.
Okay.
Yes,
I mean,
very big.
Yeah, those are their both interior guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of them might play shift outside a little bit, but that's big for them because they don't have anybody behind them. Their linebackers are slim, so having those two guys is huge.
Yeah, and in week 1, opposite Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, who was we were hoping to see a heavy snap percentage, and he was over 80% of the snaps, which was for his stock was just on the rise, and he has the potential to be that LB2 upside this year, and him coming back to practice yesterday and today, I think from what I see is definitely positive news.
Okay. Adrian Phillips, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, my heart dropped when I saw him go down on the field against Miami as a Patriots fan. I don't really know. It didn't seem terribly bad, but that's another wait and see. I mean, a lot of these
limited practice today and yesterday, so positive trends that he's going to play this weekend.
Yeah, tough guy.
Derek Barnett, tore ACL, out.
Bye. See ya.
Yep, he's done. Josh Sweat's the one you want there now, so
100%.
Okay. This is a kind of big one, I think, because the Broncos are my team, and Justin Simmons, hamstring expected to miss. I think I read 4 to 6 weeks earlier.
He got placed on the IR.
He did.
I have him in Dynasty. I had to put him on my IR. So he's on the IR. He's out for a minimum of 4 weeks.
And behind him, we have Caden Stearns and PJ Locke, right? Mm-hmm. But they brought in Harris, but I don't know if he's still on the practice squad from what I read earlier.
Yeah, I believe that Stearns is probably the next man up there.
Yeah, he's not Neither one of those two have very much experience at all over there.
You're not getting his backup, simply put.
No,
Yeah, getting Justin
definitely
Simmons back
not.
up. No.
I'm just for the sake of the Texans and playing some of their players on offense against what's happening there. I don't think it's a bad idea. I did earlier, and then I'm kind of changing my mind on that with who's going to be in.
I mean, anytime you take Justin Simmons off the field, don't get me wrong, I'll up the projections for everybody offensively. I don't know how much. Obviously, I don't even understand the Texans personally. I don't even know what to expect. I mean, it could be a full Dameon Pierce workload. It could go back to Rex Burkhead. I mean, I'm kind of in a wait and see.
Okay. Shaq Leonard at full practice.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to see the guy formerly known as Darius at full practice. Congratulations. Shaq.
For every good, there's a bad, though.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, this is bad.
I saw the last about DeForest Buckner. He was missing practice with a hip injury. Still out this week. Then
I don't know. It's not so.
If he's full tomorrow, he'll be in.
Yes.
Right.
And the Colts had, 3 pop-ups today that all were out of nowhere, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, DeForest Buckner wasn't out of nowhere because he didn't practice yesterday. Michael Pittman not practicing today, and Kenny Moore going from limited to did not practice. That kills me.
I saw the Q tag on him in IDP, guys, and I was like, what the hell happened? I have AJ Terrell as the backup, so like, okay, fine, he'll get me 10, 11 points. But yeah, Kenny Moore sitting. I mean, if he's out, Christian Kirk's gonna have a week.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
he limited yesterday and then didn't practice today. So
yeah, that's not
that would imply things aren't getting better, but he could be full tomorrow. Who knows?
Exactly.
Friday practice is the only one that matters.
Right. All right. Jordan Whitehead questionable versus Cleveland.
Yeah, I've seen conflicting. So there was a story that came out yesterday that actually said he was out, and then I had to double check, track and look, and that was just it was more of a question. It should have had a question mark at the end of that statement, but it didn't. So it should have been Jordan Whitehead out question mark, but it didn't have the question mark. So I saw it's out, but I think he's. Oh man, I don't know. I worry that he's going to miss. I'm trying to see, like, the practice report for the Jets had him as a limited participant, which is a positive, especially if it's an ankle, because I think if you're going to do anything on an ankle, it's either going to be yes or no. I mean, a rib or something, they'll test the pain. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was a pain tolerance test as well, but it's never a positive to have an ankle injury for a safety that you want to cover, decent portion of the field.
Right.
Agreed.
Do we have any audience questions?
We have one audience question, and I'll bring it up. It's from my brother. He says, is JOK worth a roster spot in Dynasty? His only linebackers are Bobby Wagner and Foye Sadaluakun. He's scared of when Wagner could retire, and at that point, someone will have already gotten JOK, which I believe is Jeremiah Owosu something. I don't know.
Karamoa. Yep.
Karamoa. Thank you.
Yep.
So, Tyne, I'll let you go. Do you feel JOK is worth a spot in Dynasty to potentially, at the point Bobby Wagner retires, do you think it's worth it at this point right now to get him?
He's worth adding in Dynasty. I would have to know the scoring, right? I think that's kind of the big thing. If you're expecting him to do what Bobby Wagner's done, then no. Nobody can really do that, right? You have to be really special. So if you've got the room, he's worth the flyer, I think, at least.
I think so. I think the one thing with JOK that we wanted to see is nobody doubted the athleticism and the upside that he brings. It was the question of, in a Cleveland defense that they're not certain he was going to play more than, 65 to 75% of the snaps. He's already showing that he's closer to 90% this year. It's one game. I know I'm not trying to get off on too much off one game, but I say yes But I also am biased in the fact that I love him this week. I think against the Jets, I think tell him to get him now. Tell him to do it now. What's your brother's name?
Gianni.
Oh, it's right in front of me. Sorry. All right, Gianni. I was looking at a different screen. I would pick him up before this game because against the Jets, what we saw last week is the Jets targeted their running backs, about 175 times, if I'm not mistaken.
Basically.
And it was Patrick Queen that saw, I believe it was 11 targets. I could see very similar production and target volume heading JOK's way and watch him put up an LB1 type week. And if that's the case, you have no chance of getting him in your dynasty. So I'm going to say jump now. And,
good advice.
We'll see. I hope so.
Always better to be early than late.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
In some situations.
That is true. Touche.
Right.
All right, we're moving on to Beyond the Field exploitable matchups heading into week 2. You do or don't have Jorge's picks?
I have Jorge's picks, so I will read off Jorge's picks for Jorge. If we want to dive into any of them, someone just bring it up and we can.
Okay.
But we have Jorge's picks here. So Jorge went with Max Crosby last week, ended up defensive lineman 16. I mean, not what maybe one would expect out of Max Crosby, but also startable, not bad. Like, again, you're just hoping for more. But this week he has Rashawn Gary Sunday night against the Bears at home. New Orleans linebacker Pete Werner against Tampa Bay at home. And then Talanoa Hufanga, and I know I said it wrong.
You did pretty good.
I think you did.
Let's go. San Francisco's defensive back. He's at home against Seattle. Is there anyone that we want to dissect out of those two, Hollywood or Nate? Or just we can dive right into Hollywood. We can dive right into your picks.
I like the Hufanga pick. He balled out week 1, so
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
Yeah. I mean, positively speaking, Pete Werner is getting the snaps that everybody wanted to see last year, and now we're seeing it. So, I mean, it's a positive going forward with Werner. I like the matchup against Tampa, and I love Rashawn Gary every week. So those are 3 solid picks. I can't wait to mock Hollywood's here. And you're going to get critiqued. That's why Jorge left and didn't show up, because he didn't want to have to face the firing squad of Max Crosby and went out on a high note.
Yeah. And
Hollywood, just real quick, I don't have your picks, so you're going to have to read them off.
Okay. So I
They're not on
have
the sheet.
they're on the sheet. So I have Gregory Rousseau versus Tennessee for the defensive
Oh, they're way
lineman.
down here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we got Gregory Rousseau versus Tennessee. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he had a good week last week against the Rams. Tennessee's offensive line still has some question marks. So I think he could have another good week with Von Miller on the other side. It's opening up a lot of things for him to just go play. So, yeah, he could have another good week, unfortunately, against my Titans this week.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think Rousseau is the hardest thing to predict with Buffalo's defensive front is that they have such a big, a rotation that they do so well. It's hard to say if one particular person's going to blow up, usually amongst the others, the Epinesses and everybody else. But I think Rousseau is the constant there. And so I really do like Gregory Rousseau.
Joe?
Tennessee's offensive line, I wouldn't say is the world beater of offensive lines. And I think that's why Hollywood put Gregory Rousseau on this list. And coming out last year, we said in our draft show 2 years ago when Rousseau was drafted by the Bills, Josh had brought this up because he's a Miami Hurricanes fan. He said Rousseau would have been drafted higher if he had played, I believe, in 2020, 2021. Essentially, he missed a season or something like that. But he was ridiculous at Miami in college. And I think he showed in his rookie season and limited snaps that he could get to the quarterback well. He's 6'6". Who's blocking that?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's he's 6'6". He was like a 4.6 40. He's incredibly quick. And agile for his size, so it's very hard to block him. Is he going to go on Luan? Is that who he'll probably be one-on-one against, or is he off the right side?
I think he's going to be on the right side. I would have to imagine that Von Miller will be over Luan.
Oh, well, then Taylor Lewan's going to get absolutely ruined by Von Miller. But yeah, I mean that's even better for Luan is probably, again, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the best offensive lineman Tennessee currently has. I haven't dissected their O-line, but I mean, I know he's been the staple for their offensive
Well, he should
line
be.
Yeah. Facts. He's consistently normally at the top of Tennessee's list of best offensive linemen. So if he's not seeing their quote unquote best, I mean, it's Monday Night Football at home against Buffalo in a season opener where for the first time in forever, they are actually the Super Bowl favorites.
Yeah.
Tennessee is going to get rocked. And I can say that confidently, thinking, like, knowing that I think Hollywood knows that deep down in his heart that Tennessee is going to get absolutely rocked on Monday Night Football.
It's a tall task for sure. I mean, if they if they did play like they did last week against the Giants, then it's going to be ugly quick, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
All right, we have CJ Mosley at Cleveland.
Yeah, that quarterback situation is just not very good right now. And they've got two really good running backs with Chubb and Hunt, right? And they want to run everything through them. So I think the opportunity is there. Mosley had I think it was 9-10 tackles last week. He was right there at it. So yeah, the volume's going to be there, and I think he's good enough he can produce. So
good pick.
A name who just hasn't been high recently in past years because he's been hurt. And I believe he was healthy all of last season, and it showed because he was near the top of every single IDP scoring for linebackers. He is always around the football. When he was back in Baltimore, he was always around the football. The issue was for like 3 straight seasons, he was hurt and only played 4 to 6 games a year. 1 year, I believe he only played 1 or 2. He was out for the entire year. So when he's healthy, CJ Mosley, not one of the best linebackers in the NFL, one of the best fantasy linebackers, especially in a tackle-heavy league.
Absolutely.
Against a run-heavy offense. Line them up.
And then your last pick is Richie Grant at the Rams.
So we've heard this name for a year or so now, and it's finally Atlanta's just they're so deprived of talent, right?
So good.
So the Rams they're going to be pissed off after their performance from against the Bills, so they're going to be looking to bounce back. And now Grant's in a full-time starting role, so the volume's there. I think he was at 10 tackles as well last week. I think it was 5 solos to go with that. So with the Rams just doing pretty much what they want to do this week, I believe he'll have a big game.
Yeah. We talked about Richie Grant yesterday, and that everybody wanted. He's got, that's the type of player he is he has the ability to pivot, and Atlanta didn't know exactly what they were going to do with him, which was the worst for his development, is throw him at corner, slot corner, not let him play safety, then sometimes let him roam free, and then bring him back up front and let him play in the box. Now that they have, between him and Jalen Hawkins, I think they have more established roles. I think we'll see a lot more consistency out of Richie Grant. And I love this matchup. I think he could be heavily targeted, just the way that the Rams spread the ball, to that intermediate area where he should occupy.
Right.
No notes. Agreed.
Cool. So we're going to move on to your picks then.
Oh, let's go.
And we're going to have to say that you whiffed on Jerome Baker last week because somebody wanted that said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell the New England offense was doing on Sunday. So they said they were switching up their game plan. Then they ran it, and then they were trying to throw it, but Mac Jones thought that the turf was his teammate and not the actual hands of his receivers.
Right.
So it got really confusing. I don't know. I don't know. I picked up the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in every league I could this week, just to give you an idea of how confident I am in that New England offense.
Yeah, it's pretty atrocious.
Atrocious.
Atrocious. All right, we'll start first with Brian Burns at the Giants.
Oh yeah. So I called Jeffrey Simmons last week, and I asked someone on the show. Oh, I asked Nate because he had Rashad Weaver, which congratulations, 2 sacks.
And a lot of that is with Hollywood. We
Yeah.
all dissected Rashad Weaver pretty decent before, and I felt comfortable coming on here. But yeah, it was, and you were right too. I mean, hell, those two were phenomenal.
Simmons
they were
Simmons
all
is
over
an
the place.
absolute menace.
He is so.
He's so good. And in IDP drafts, I don't understand why he was falling so far, as like especially like in leagues where you need to start a defensive tackle.
Mhm.
I mean, there were rankings that had him outside of the top 12.
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
you can't name me. You can barely name me 5 better defensive tackles, let alone 12 better defensive tackles,
Right.
especially in fantasy. So I saw that against a piss poor Giants offensive line. And I said, well, I started inside, might as well go outside. Brian Burns played very well against a good Cleveland Browns offensive line. Brian Burns is going to play really well against a bad Giants offensive line. They're run happy, and he is athletic enough to deal with the moves of Saquon Barkley. And he's quick enough to get around either of those tackles. I don't trust Andrew Thomas at all. So I feel very confident Burns can come away with 1.5 sacks and probably rake in 3 to 4 tackles. So you're sitting pretty somewhere in the double-digit points. Burns tended to, at least in the leagues I've been in, tended to have fallen a little bit when it came to overall defensive line, but also just defensive end specific drafts. Because I mean, defensive ends are loaded with T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Joe, you name it. Those are your money makers in a lot of these leagues.
Mhm.
Brian Burns tended to fall further. So, I mean, hell, you're not in a deep league, and you're in a league where you just start defensive linemen across the board, not split up between tackles and ends. I love Burns.
Yeah, he's going to face this week.
Is he going to slow Saquon down, you think?
No, that's not his job.
Okay.
That's not his job. I think Saquon still has a good week. Very clearly, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt tore up that defense. I still think he has a good week. Brian Burns cannot single-handedly. If Brian Burns is in the middle like an Aaron Donald or a Jeffrey Simmons, then you could argue that could be the case. But no, I don't think that happens. And
Okay.
I do want to bring this up because what are the odds we have a Giants fan on the Twitch chat?
Oh,
I don't know how to say your name. I'm just going to say Eli or Elias, one of the two. I understand the grades, and I get it. I've had Giants fans in my ear. I work with Giants fans, and they tell me Andrew Thomas is one of the best left tackles in the league. I don't believe it. Numbers are and grades are a whole different thing than what I've seen with an eye test. That's all I'm saying. I trust my eyes more than I do numbers sometimes. All right, it is Elias. Boom, nailed it. So
There you go.
I don't trust it yet. If he I said this before the season, again, not on air or anywhere, but I said this. I said if he plays well this season and proves me wrong, I will then say, okay, I was wrong in Andrew Thomas. Okay, this is year 3. I'll say I'm wrong in Andrew Thomas. Let's see, because I do think Brian Burns goes one-on-one against Andrew Thomas this week, coming off the left side of the offensive line, which is obviously where Thomas plays. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, he has his hands full this week against a really good matchup. He had Danico Autry last week. Let's not call Andrew Thomas anything great off of week 1. So we talked about 33-year-old Danico Autry.
That fires you up a little bit.
Look at this. We got a follower. Yes, Elias, follow, come back later in the season and chirp me if I'm wrong. I will eat it on air. I promise you. I promise you right now.
unfortunately, I don't think this week again, and I'm only going by what initial matchups look like. Is I think it looks like Burns is going to go up against Evan Neal, just because Burns lines up more on that left end than anything. But I mean, who's to say that they don't rotate? And it's not Haynes lined up of what, because I mean, let's be clear. They are not going to get much in the way of pressure if they do it that way. And or Yatur Gross Matos. I'm sorry. That's in most base sets. I think the key also is going to be if they want to put Burns on that other side, that's where they take advantage, because Matt Ioannidis and Brian Burns against Thomas, and I guess their left tackle's Bredesen, or left guard. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Brian Burns. I'm just rooting for you.
Thanks, man.
Anytime.
All right, we have Alex Singleton versus Houston.
Oh, did you see him absolutely destroy Travis Homer on his blitz? Oh, it was. Now, if you play in, I believe in IDP 1-2-3 scoring, you would have gotten points for quarterback pressure. So that's nice. He didn't end up converting the sack, but he blew him up. And at least in the league that I'm in, with IDP guys, he had 17 points, which I had said before the season, and I got so much shit for this. I put Alex Singleton in my top 10 for linebackers. Now that is because I play in tackle heavy leagues, and how we were rating it was I was dealing in my rankings with tackle heavy. Mm-hmm. So a guy like TJ Watt was not even in my top 10 or not even in my top 15, because sacks in the league that I play in are 3 points and tackles are 2. So sacks are almost irrelevant for the most part when you're looking at the linebacker position. And TJ Watt doesn't have defensive end eligibility which again blows my mind. It's stupid. If you're an edge rusher, you should have defensive end eligibility. Neither here nor there. Alex Singleton, I was hoping was going to fill in for the Josie Jew role, all these different things. And very clearly he has. He flies all over the field. He is a fantastic player. And this week against Houston, I say it all the time, young quarterbacks going into Denver always have a tough time in that altitude. And it's Denver's first time in a while where they have the chance to go to the Super Bowl and make it far in the playoffs. Mile High is going to be rocking. Davis Mills is not going to know what hit him.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah, Houston's going to struggle.
That is a suck up to the host.
I did not know Roxanne was a Broncos fan. So
you did it?
No idea. But now I know, and now I'm gonna pick a Broncos player every week.
You gotta run out pretty quick, unfortunately.
Only about 2 or 3 to choose from, but we'll just rotate.
Right, exactly. Rotate.
Exactly.
All right, and then we have Marcus Williams at Miami.
Another guy that's just making me look really good. And this is essentially the list of players that made me look good in week 1, and I'll probably eat shit for Brian Burns in week 2. But we're going to see. Marcus Williams had an unbelievable week 1. And to me, it's not surprising. He's in a Ravens defense as a good safety. If you watched any New Orleans Saints football, you know how good the guy was. And it showed not just the system in New Orleans was really good, because both Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May played very well last week. Which again, if you watched our one IDP show that we do a year, now that we do it weekly during the season, if you watch the one, I said, look out for Marcus May because he's going to New Orleans, and Marcus Williams because he's going to Baltimore. 2 really good safeties that you probably have never heard of because the media won't cover them, and they just tend to be like lower on the. It's not a Budda Baker, it's not a Derwin James, it's not the sexy name.
Right.
Marcus Williams makes every play across the board. He is so good and he's going to Miami. Adrian Phillips played well. Kyle Duggar destroyed that backfield on 3 to 4 plays. So if you get points for tackles for losses, light them up. Yeah. Baltimore is not afraid to send their secondary players. Marcus Williams should have another fantastic. Don't expect a 30-plus point blow up, but Marcus Williams should have another fantastic week against, and yes, I'm going to say it, a terrible offense in Miami. They scored 7 points.
Make people mad.
They scored 7 points in week 1, and their only touchdown they scored was on a 4th and 5 on a blown coverage and a miscommunication between the middle linebacker and the safety. That's how they scored. Tyreek Hill was underthrown on 2 of his deep ball routes. 1 should have been intercepted. Tua did not complete a pass further than 10 yards down the field. Tua can't throw deep, and they have 2 deep threats. How the hell are you going to run an offense? Miami is not. If they make the playoffs, they're going to get absolutely smoked in round 1.
Big if
saying
there.
it since they got Tyreek Hill. Everyone needs to calm down.
I have been out on Tyreek. This week, if there was a matchup, I'm not opposed to a DFS type play towards Tyreek if the money shifted down just a little bit, just because Brandon Stevens is who he'll be lined up against, and Brandon Stevens is, pretty trash. But it's I have very
Not
little
Tyreek Hill
belief.
we're worried about. That's the thing. I guess what we're saying. It's his quarterback.
Correct.
Yes.
It really,
Right.
absolutely. And Tyreek's not with KC, so Tyreek.
Deuces.
Yeah,
I get that.
see ya.
See ya.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, we're on to Nate's picks. Rashad Weaver.
Let's,
I have exclamation points. Tell us.
now, with that, also you said, do we start him? And I said, probably not. So if you actually did pick him up, because Hollywood mentioned it, and our friend Mike Wohlert mentioned Rashad Weaver, and I think that had a lot to do with us kind of building him up. But a player who doesn't need building up, unless you look at last week, which is the entire New Orleans defensive line, somehow, against an Atlanta Falcons offensive line that, to me, is, I don't want to say atrocious, but I had zero belief that they were going to limit the Saints to 5 total pressures. I assume Marcus Davenport or Cam Jordan alone were going to have 5. And I think that's going to play out in week 2 now, where they're going to have a little bit of fire, and it's going to be Marcus Davenport lined up against who? That's the question. And I'm saying that not like I don't know, but I really don't know, because when you have an injury and their offensive line for Tampa is already in shambles, it's a matter of, oh boy, who's going to come up next? And, he doesn't have to line up against Tristan Wirfs, because that's going to be Cam Jordan on the other end. And so I get the feeling that Davenport's just going to live in the backfield. I know it's Tom Brady, and I know he gets rid of the ball extremely fast, but there's a good chance that, up the middle, that you're going to have a lot of pressure from David Onyemata, Marcus Davenport, and then Cam Jordan on the other side. I love the play. He's the defensive back, 16, 17 in ECR. And I would have him as, a borderline defensive line 1, probably around 11 or 12 is what I'm guessing. Any pushback on Marcus Davenport? Are we worried or concerned from what we saw last week, guys? Or is that just a kind of a who cares? Let it go.
I'm still angry. I'm still angry the Saints traded up to 14 to draft this bum. So I'm anti Marcus Davenport as a whole.
That's okay. And honestly,
because why pick him? Why draft him in like the 3rd round at his value when you could trade up 10 spots to draft him at 14 in the 1st round? So
a la some of the others we've talked about, it's like maybe not in the same degree. I shouldn't put him and CJ Mosley in the same conversation necessarily, but Marcus Davenport's injuries have definitely zapped his ceiling, and we probably zapped his floor too. We haven't seen much of anything until last year, and what we saw was exciting. But hopefully I'm right. Hopefully Davenport can stay healthy and he'll get to TB12. At linebacker is another person who I just saw his name come up on the injury list. He, as far as practice reports goes, the good news is he had limited practice today after not practicing yesterday, and that's Jawan Bentley. And Jawan Bentley, it's just a matchup. It's purely matchup based, because I hate New England rotation on defense. Joe, you can account for this. Hollywood, you can. Yeah. Roxanne, pretty much anybody can account. It is. I'm pretty sure they rolled dice and they go.
Madness is what I call it.
It is madness. But we saw last week that, Bentley was seeing the majority of the snaps, which is check mark 1. I'm happy to see that. Mm-hmm. 2, I don't trust Pittsburgh. Number 1, I don't trust the efficiency of Najee. I think that Lisfranc foot, whatever is going on, is gonna it's gonna have to zap some of that. Last year's efficiency was so bad. This year's not any better. Everything stays in the middle of the field. Trubisky's not capable or able, if you ask me, spread the field too much. I think it stays within the 10s, and I think that's just eat them up period and eat them up time for Bentley, like a double-digit tackle week. Might not be an LB1 type week because he doesn't do, usually much outside of the tackle, but in tackle heavy leagues, that's all you can ask for, especially out of a person who is right now LB 50. Yeah, it's easy return on your investment. And for me at defensive back, easy return on my investment is the defensive back 28, and that's Grant Delpit with the Browns. The big question with Delpit going in this year was, will he play enough snaps at the the line of scrimmage? And I think we've seen that so far this year. It's, again, I keep saying that. It's like we had this long history.
That's all we have to go on, though.
I know it is, Roxanne. Thank you. You got my back on that. But that is true. But that's what he did. And the Jets, a la every other team that you notice there's a trend with a lot of our picks that we have for these guys. It's people that are at or near the line of scrimmage that are going to be heavily involved at or around the ball. Shockingly, when you're around the ball, you make plays and you score points. And I think that's the type of, I know. Did I just blow your mind there, Joe?
I'm not a math guy, but
I know I'm not sure which GIF you would put up right now. Would it be the one with the John C. Reilly where he's looking around at all the numbers, or is it the Zach Galifianakis one?
Zach Galifianakis every single time. That's not even. That's a stupid question.
Okay, well there you go. Now you know it. So that's what it is. That's what I'm. Well, sure. It applicable. So that's my Grant Delpit pick. That's who I'm going with.
It's a good one. I'm not gonna.
It's the Jets.
Disagree with you on that.
Yeah,
it's the Jets.
Exactly.
They suck.
All right. Do we have any questions, or does your brother have anything he'd like to ask us?
Yes, and we have another one that I've answered a few in the chat because they were more offense focused, which again is the majority of fantasy players.
It's okay.
I have a question on Facebook that is an offensive question, but I don't want to answer it because I'm scared. So I need a general consent. The other ones I've been fairly confident. The one on Facebook, I'm a little worried about. So we'll start with G's, and I feel like this is going to be a consensus answer on this. Brian Burns or Myles Garrett, and he said, is it even morally right to bench Myles Garrett? No, it is not. He's playing the Jets. I don't think anybody is going to disagree with that.
No.
Okay. Yet everyone can aggressively nod their head until their neck breaks, so we can skip that question. And this is the question that I want to pose for everybody. I know it's IDP, but this is a game kicking off in 30 minutes, and this is why I want to bring this question up.
Okay.
Samuel Pope is asking, should he start Mike Williams tonight or go with DJ Moore or DK Metcalf? He brings up Mike Williams had a bad game in week 1, which he did, but reminder, Keenan Allen is out tonight. So Mike Williams will be the de facto wide receiver 1. Their second option down the field in the passing game is either going to be Gerald Everett, Josh Palmer, or DeAndre Carter. So really nobody that has good rapport with Justin Herbert, which is a plus. But does Mike Williams having a bad week back you off and go with DJ Moore, DK Metcalf? Hollywood, I'll start with you on this one because I am truly conflicted on this.
I think I start Williams. I do. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, even with the defenses making big plays. I don't see much of a change for him. I think he'll get more targets, right? So I think with the increased volume, the production is going to continue to be there. So unless you've got a super better option, and I don't know that Moore or Metcalf for me, I don't know that they're better options this week.
No, and I love DJ Moore, but unfortunately I've had the benefit, if you want to call it benefit, of watching Mike Williams against the Chiefs over the years. And let's start with the matchup. And the matchup is not going to be L'Jarius Sneed, which is the only person on the Kansas City Chiefs defense that I personally believe would be able to slow down Mike Williams, because Trent McDuffie is out. He looked great last year despite being a rookie. The problem is you have other rookies that are going to be filling in. I mean, realistically, it's probably going to be Jalen Watson is who he's going to be lined up against. The matchup is better because Jalen Watson's a 6'2", 200-pound corner. The problem is he's a 7th round pick out of Washington State, and the pedigree is not there. Despite what size says, they have to lean Mike Williams' way. And going back to, like I said, with the history against that, let's look just, the last couple years. So last year, week 15, he was targeted 9 times, only had 3 catches, 49 yards. Go back to week 3, where he was targeted 9 times again. He caught 7 of them for $122 and 2 touchdowns. And you go back to 2020 and the same thing. He has 1 poor game where he didn't do much. And then the next game, he put up 6 for 108 and a touchdown. He just always seems to, and you can go back even further, 2019, same way.
I did last night.
So, yeah, you bring that up. Take out the bad games because those were at home. The games in Kansas City, 7 for 122, 2 touchdowns, 6 for 108, 1 touchdown, 2 for 38, bad game in 2019. 2018, 7 for 76 and 2 touchdowns, plus a 19-yard touchdown on the ground.
Correct.
He apparently hates playing the Chiefs in Los Angeles.
Yes.
He really likes playing them at Gia, whatever the heck that
GFEA Stadium.
Arrowhead Stadium.
Arrowhead.
Is what we're calling it. That was like when with Jacobs Field in Cleveland was changed to Progressive Field, and no one's called it that since.
They still don't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Jacobs Field. So yeah, this is Arrowhead Stadium. He apparently loves playing in Kansas City. So, and very clearly the Chiefs don't know how to cover him there.
Well, here's a positive maybe we can all learn. Maybe this might go against you, Samuel. I have been at every one of those games for the last 4 years where the Chargers have played the Chiefs, because that seems to be our game we go to. So I firsthand get to watch Mike Williams basically whoop our ass. So me not being there this year, maybe that'll be the changing of the tides or the guard or any other superlative.
I was gonna say, damn, Nate, you're late to the game, bro. You might want to leave.
You guys come before Chiefs game. Always.
This
one love. Isn't that what they
love
do?
to see that.
Okay.
That's what family does.
No.
And Samuel brought up one more question. I hate to bring up offense again, but again, this is not a question I'm comfortable answering, because I also have an issue of starting Dawson Knox this week. Do you start Dawson Knox or TJ Hawkinson, Titan?
Oh, Dawson Knox screwed me in every league last year. I took him in so many leagues.
Yeah. And again, it's painful. So we brought up that the Rams tend to be decent at covering the tight end, I believe, in recent history or something like that, which is why Dawson Knox did not have a good week. Obviously, he plays your Titans. Do you feel confident? He just needs a touchdown to be relevant. Can he score a touchdown? It's so hard. I'm saying Knox. Personally, I'm saying Knox. I don't think Hawkinson's going to be involved. I'm saying Dawson Knox.
I'm only saying Knox because I'm so highly invested. I'm not ready to give up yet.
And I'll go Knox.
Towards Knox. Yeah.
I mean, which team has the chance of putting up 35 points? Buffalo. I mean, Detroit did last week against Philly. I know.
Excuse me, that's the Hard Knocks Detroit Lions you're talking about. This ain't the old Detroit Lions.
You're putting a significant amount of money on one of the two teams to eclipse 35 points. I'm going to say, if it was a heavy wager, I'm going to lean towards Buffalo, the little Josh Allen. And I think that just increases Dawson Knox odds. And I'm admittedly right now switching, because I had Hawkinson at 7, Knox at 8. They're now switched. Knox is now 7, Hawkinson's now 8.
I just can't give up yet. It's the same with Mike Williams. I can't give up after last week.
Yeah, it's just that toxic X you keep going back to.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, toxic. All right.
You're right.
That's all we have. And now I think that is literally perfect timing, because with 10 minutes left, Roxanne, what are we ending on?
We have Jorge's picks.
We don't have Jorge's picks. He wimped out on the lower expectations pick this week. So we just have.
Oh, okay. These are Hollywood's picks.
Yeah,
okay.
we just have the 3 of us, and
Oh, he wanted to go out on top after the Daniel Hunter finished as DL23. Is that really what's happening?
Yeah, essentially. So he's not making
Wow.
a lower expectation pick the rest
Proud
of
of
the year.
himself,
So,
huh?
yeah.
All right, Hollywood's pick. Camus Gruger Hill.
Yeah.
Say it right for me,
So
please.
yeah. Camus. You got me messed up. Camus Gruger Hill.
Yes, sir.
Camus Gruger Hill.
Yes.
Okay.
So after
Thank
the
you.
18 tackle performance last week, he can't do that again, right? At least you don't think so. We didn't think he would have 18 last week, and he did, but I just don't see Houston having that many tackles as a team again, because they had 4 or 5 players in double digits, and for him to have 18, I just don't see that. So for me, that's the easiest natural regression from week 1 to week 2, I think.
Okay. Joe, Roquan Smith finished as linebacker 19, solid fade. Jeffrey Simmons at Buffalo.
Simmons is not going to do what he did last week against the Bills, very simply because, I mean, I'm not confident in the Bills' interior offensive line, but Daniel Jones does not move like Josh Allen does. So
Are you sure?
I'm gonna stake my fantasy career on that one. I'd have to say, the day Daniel Jones moves like Josh Allen, I will quit. There we go.
I think we all should.
Yeah, and that's my other thing. And I will say, I'm starting him because odds are you probably, especially if you have a defensive tackle, you probably don't have a great backup. Like I have Vita Vea, and I see him like, okay, he's playing New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll soak in some tackles. He was on the field for 61% of the snaps. Jeffrey Simmons was on the field for 86% of them.
Yeah.
I'll take my odds with Jeffrey Simmons, the better player, with more snaps. So yeah, I'm not huge into the whole numbers thing, but snap percentage very much tells you something on the defensive side of the football, especially more than the offensive side. Because the defense, especially at those key positions close to the line of scrimmage, you have way more odds of getting involved. So I think Jeffrey Simmons falls back into the high teens, potentially the low 20s. So he's not going to have a week like he did last week. Maybe he gets his hand on a half a sack, but I don't even see him getting a sack this week. Josh Allen's just way too elusive.
Yep. I agree with that, I think. Nate's pick, Jeremy Chin, home run fade with defensive back 67 finish. Good job on that one. Jonathan Owens, what are we talking about there?
Yeah, real quick on Jeremy Chin, the one reason I faded him is because I was worried that he was going to play a significant amount of snaps at deep, and Xavier Woods was going to be in the box more times than not. Positive going forward is Jeremy Chin was present in the box. He did have that similar role to what he's played in the past. So, wheels up on Jeremy Chin the rest of the season. Jonathan Owens, on the other hand, is going to be a crash and burn if you think you're going to get what you got last week. I mean, to expect 13 tackles, 15 tackles, depending upon which source you're looking at. But here's the reason why. Exactly like Camus Gruger Hill is that, or we can just say KGH going for it, so I don't have to say that whole thing. Take a breath before his name. 92 total snaps is what KGH saw last week. 92 snaps. 92. Right. Think of that. And that's how many Jonathan Owens saw. 92. Let's do one further. Jonathan Owens had 69 snaps deep at free safety. To put that into perspective, he played more snaps at deep safety than all but 32 other players in the entire NFL on defense last week. It's an unsustainable number. He's never gonna play 90. The traditional safety, I mean, just in general, you're talking 50 to 60 snaps is a good week. Yeah. And so Owens is as great of a week as he had, is gonna just kind of fade off into the distance in terms of overall production, because he just isn't around the ball enough to me to be impactful. That's Jalen Petrie if you look for a Houston safety or defensive back, as far as I'm concerned. So Jonathan Owens, I'm sorry if you have him. You didn't have him. You had to pick him up for lightning in a bottle. and you might as well throw that bottle away, recycle it, save the earth.
Save the
Cycle
earth.
it and save the
All
earth,
right.
he says.
Good stuff, you guys.
Nice.
I like
That's
it. We had a great show. All right, I am going to finish off, and then we'll say our goodbyes real quick. Just let me read this.
All you,
This-
Roxanne.
What?
All you, Roxanne.
Thank you. This has been the latest episode of You Down with IDP from Club Fantasy and Fantasy and Frames. Make sure you're following Fantasy and Frames on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fantasy and Frames. And be sure to check out their website, fantasyandframes.com, for all your IDP needs. And don't forget, they do Dynasty Redraft and DFS also. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. DFS, player props, sports betting, and our start sit column confidence plays begin hitting the site as early as Friday, tomorrow. For Nate, at Nate Marcum on Twitter, at Joe _Zollo. Hollywood Titan is at Hollywood Titan. I am at F Queen Roxanne on Twitter. Thank you for joining us tonight. Look forward to a good game. Good luck tonight, Nate.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bolt up.
Oh, that's
right.
mean.
Hold up. That's right.
Hold on.
Bolt up, baby. Woo!
That's
Always
right.
remember, offense may win fantasy, but defense wins fantasy championships. See you all next week.
Woo!
See
Bye,
ya.
everyone.